Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A CloudFoundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Today, we are going to look at these things. We will see what this case life cycle is. How do you design it then? What is the user context then? How do we update some case statuses? How do we add instructions to what we will be looking at? I mean, this is like a very basic, or you could say the first step after you create your application. All the business transactions that we deal with, suppose when you take a recruitment-based application, what are transactions HR can be able to perform? They will be working on recruitment transactions, they will be working on onboarding, they will be working on employee resignations, employee engagement, a lot of different kinds of transactions. Business transaction, we call it as a case type. We call it a case type, which represents what that transaction is all about or how the transaction proceeds will be defined in the case lifecycle. And when I call something a case lifecycle or a business transaction, it needs to have a clear starting point and a definite endpoint. My business transactions cannot be never ending. I cannot have that sort of transactions. I need to have clear-cut definition of what is the starting point of my transaction and what is going to be the end point of my transaction. Suppose, to give you a simple example, here we replace an order on Amazon. Now, once I receive my product, the case life cycle should end there. It cannot go on and on. Until I order the next product, it will still continue in the same transaction. As per my transaction, once the customer receives the product done, we are completing that KC life cycle. Similarly, for a requirement, what we are looking at, once the candidate has accepted the offer, my recruitment transaction is done. If you still want to extend it, I will complete my recruitment transaction once the candidate joins the organization. Whatever your scenario might be, we need to be careful. When are you resolving the transaction? And also your starting point. What is the starting point? Is it like I am collecting some information or I am gathering information? What is the starting point and what is the ending point? I have to be clear on the next point. And as we have discussed earlier, case type will remain one, whereas cases can be multiple. Now, once you define the case type or the case life cycle, it is just done once. Now, every candidate that is recruited have to go through the whole of this process. And I can have n number of candidates. Correct. Always a one relationship between the case types and the cases. And this is the user ID and password we have created. Now, for example, I am going to take a simple place online. This is the transaction that I wanted to take. Now, if you need to design, or if someone asks you to design a transaction for this or define some life cycle for this, What is it that we generally start with? First, place the order. Or I will put not placing an order, probably buying a product online. My requirement is we need to buy some product online, say package. Yes, package it. And then you receive it. On a broader sense, I can say these four are the phases that my buying the product online transaction will have. And for each of these phases internally, there would be a lot of other steps that I should perform or other actions that I need to take. An order is not a single action that I do. I need to watch for a lot of things. First, I need to look at the reviews ratings. Then I need to make a payment and get the confirmation. All these steps are involved internally. If they bundle together, I just call it to place an order. But internally, there's a lot of stuff that I have to do. When you take packaging, packaging is also a single entity. There are a lot of other things involved in it. First, I need to check that that is in stock or not. If it is in the stock, I need to check what is the validity of the product. Is it in good shape? Is it I need to check at the expiry dates and all of that. I from some warehouse. I bring it to my career facility. I nicely pack it. All of that is involved in package. Then, when it comes to shipping, again, it involves multiple steps. No career facility has to be shipped to the appropriate address. Some modes of transport to be selected. I need to check whether the customer is a prime customer or not. If it is a prime customer, you would expect a faster delivery. I should check for faster transport. That decision is taken there. And then, appropriately, it has moved to that particular region. And it reaches the nearest courier facility according to that delivery address. Then probably the last thing is for delivery. Where the delivery guy comes in, he delivers the product. But with this, not really. After that also, we probably need to acknowledge, or if you are trying to buy some laptop or something, he would ask you to open it. Right. And he'll make sure that all the components are correctly received. And then he will ask for a signature, or probably a normal signature would be asked. Once that is done and receive your product, that is where your business transaction will end. And maybe a little feedback is also required. They would ask you to share some feedback or give some rating. All of this is involved in a transaction. Now these phases, if I have to create or if I have to deal with these in data, we call them as stages. We call them what stages? Stages are something which are like a broader classification. You tend to divide your transaction into phases. Those phases here, in technical term we call them as stages. Now with stages, we know that a lot of stuff has to be carried out. That is called a process. Within a stage, I can have some processes. And with the processes, I can have something called as steps. That is like the list, or you can say the individual entities or tasks that we perform. They are called steps. Something like making a payment is a step for tracking. The order could be a step. Any business transaction you take, You can basically do these sorts of entities, stages, steps, and processes. Now, this is for buying a product online. What about the recruitment transaction that we are doing? Probably I submit the details. I submit my profile, my experience details and certifications, the work experience, the tech stack that I worked in. All those details would be submitted. Then, after submission, you might have a written test. You might have some online exams inside that within the interview. A technical round, then a managerial round, and then a HR round, and all of that. Then, after interview, let us see the candidate selected. Probably, I can see this to be a release offer speech. Release offer. And within release offer, I'll be sending him an email that is selected and I will send him the offer letter. And I may also collect some feedback from user regarding the interview experience. This is on a positive note of the candidate selected. What if he is rejected after the second stage? Obviously, even only after an interview, we'll be able to reject. He might send a feedback to the candidate. Yes, it's L second. There's a decision making. Yes, exactly. There's a rejection where we can handle. Here also, you may need to send an email saying, give the feedback. Exactly. You might not be able to take you this time or give 3 months or 2 months time for him. Then we want him to come. Something that probably a feedback also from this particular user. Also, we wanted a fee. Now the stages are finalized submission, interview, release, offer and rejection. Now when I start talking about the steps, we might need their personal reasons, basic personal details and their resume. We contact details, right? Those details are required. Then any other details. Then it's about the job profile resume to upload. All those stuff. Then anything else other than job details, probably some experience details we might need. That's what that might be in there might be portal where you can enter all those details. What they ask in the application. You fill those as in it when you do an online application. They might accordingly depends on the organization or they want to get it. Then I would let it be like personal details, experience details or resume and certification. Education. All those will come in a form. I think it depends on the organization how they collect information. Right. And probably this is the information we might need. And currently, if you observe, we are also trying to collect some experience details of the candidate. But what the candidate is, a fresher is just passed out of college. With that, we wouldn't have this experience. Details. That's my job and forms depend accordingly. The decision is made like there might be different form for them. For the fresher, it might pop up as a different one. Where is not, you just need to put your education details and what you have done or certifications or courses. We will be able to navigate or control the case flow accordingly. Because not according to the image, according to the person, like according to the case, actually isn't it? Exactly. For example, when you take a passport application, when a person is your passport, they would be an easier category. The immigration checker quite or non-ecker category. Generally, like when there is a certain criteria, when you fall under the ECR category or when you fall under the non-ecker category. Every user I cannot mandate really say that, no, you should go into the non-ecker category. I cannot say that. It depends upon each individual. I cannot create one case type for issue passport for ECR, issue passport for non-ecker. That's not a good practice. Your type should be universal. It should allow any kind of customer. But for each customer, according to their requirements, according to their profile, you will control the case respectively. It's not like I should not be creating a number of case types for a number of scenarios. All scenarios to be added under one single case type. That's the best way. I mean, it should be dynamic, the decision. Exactly. And within passport also. If you see, I can have different age groups. Passport could be there, or passport for senior citizens could be there, for general could be there. Now I should not create 3 case types. Passport for minor, passport for senior citizen, passport for regular is not a good practice. It should be embedded or should be handled on a single case. That best practice or an effective way of creating case types. We were talking about the steps and process. Now in interview, what are steps do you think are involved? Once they shortlist, they will ask for the time. What suits both might be a time slot they might give it. You might have to choose for. They might ask for your time. Probably scheduling. Yes, scheduling. Then maybe some days in time. That's for something we do, some basic online scrutiny or some written test kind of thing. It might be a short telephonic interview or something like written or something. A very basic scrutiny could be their written test online. Then there might be further technical or face-to-face interviews or something which could be like the main interview. Let us put that as a main interview. I'll name it approval. Let me just go to. Accordingly, as per the decision, it will be the rejection or approval and Zari. Either it should go to the release offer or it can go to the rejection stage depending upon this. This is made here. Now in the release offer, what do we need to expect? What steps could be there here? There might be offer me in the sense you make offer, and there might be the candidate might accept or reject the offer. There might be some further discussions on that. It might be first acceptance or it might be rejection. Let me. It might depend on the process, if they want to make a future offer or they might want to give that offer to somebody. It depends on the organization. But already you have probably first notifying the candidate, and I'm probably getting in the feedback. The feedback, or it could be like if you wanted to add in the candidate's response also. Yes, it's out of your opinion. I mean, you clearly know when you want to stop your transaction. That's when it's only providing the offer. Then my recruitment transaction or my recruitment case type is ready or it is done with it. If you are also looking at the candidate's response or the candidate onboarding, join all of that, then you have to go with other set of stages because candidate onboarding is not a simple step. It's not a simple process. Boarding involves different teams. There need to be a chart team to verify your documents. There need to be an admin to provide you the necessary access of that or you see or the different zones. Or you need an ID infra team to provide you with your laptops and rest of the infra required. If you think the onboarding itself is a complicated transaction, we better define it as a separate case type. If your onboarding process is comparatively it's not that complicated, then I can have it as a separate stage. But it cannot be a simple step. It cannot be handled in one step, obviously. This decision lies with the stakeholders, the product owners, and the BSS because they are the ones who look at the complexities. If you feel that the onboarding process is a lot more complicated, it is involving a lot of transactions in it better. Design them as a separate case type because developers wouldn't be doing this sort of stuff. You will build the case type and you will hand it over to them from a forward. They will not decide what should be a step, what should be a process, or what should be a stage. They do not. They probably might not be aware of that. But BSS should be clearly identifying or it should be clearly looking at the complexities or the processes that are involved. And accordingly, we need to make a choice that whether they should go in a step, can this go in a step or can this go in a complete transaction? That decision lies with the product owners and the BSS. I think then let us go ahead and once, if you think even in the onboarding also, I think we will define for you. But now, assuming onboarding is also part of the recruitment. What we can have here under onboarding. Once they've accepted you, that will be also acceptance. We will take it in the release offer only. We'll take it like candidate. And then onboarding. You have to fill all the paperwork. I think it's about verifying your documents. You need to wait for all the verification. You need to submit first all the documents. Or the required bank account or something. Although you know that earlier funds, whatever, all of that will be part of the. And for the background verification, you need to wait until all your background verification. And you need to submit all the documents for the verification. Correct. Now, this background processing, do you think it should be a separate stage here? Or can it be a process, or should it be? It should be a different stage. Because onboarding you have made a process, isn't it? We are using it in recruitment case type itself. Onboarding is a process. I feel background verification should be one more stage because there might be many scenarios in background verification again. Correct. On this context, as part of this background, generally BGV is handed over to some third party, organizations. It's not like sometimes it's not like our organization will have some people to check, but sometimes it gives this job some external third party. But still, there will be scenarios, isn't it? Not everyone wants the same intensity of verification every account or every job type you're doing. Exactly. If you think there are a lot of scenarios involved in background verification, then you can define it as a separate case type. For example, a BGV for year candidate is completely different from a BGV for a 25-year experienced candidate. And it depends also on the business. Like in my own case, we are corporate, but if you are working with people, they have a very detailed one because they're working with people. There's all criminal check. Everything will be done very detailed. But if you're working in office, yours will be a different one because you may not need the one you want to. They might do that, correct? It depends upon what kind of job you have applied for, what domain is it from, right? Or sort of what organization you're applying for. All that, yes, it is involved. If you think that's going to be a complicated stuff, maybe the time taken also matters sometimes. If you want the BGV to be completed within 2 weeks for some sort of candidates, or probably you might do 2 months for other set of candidates. But timelines are also important. Looking at all of these, you can define your BGV as a separate transaction itself. Now coming back to onboarding. There might be HR documents, then maybe IT can infra, providing all sorts of, laptops and required infra. And also induction also will be one of the different induction. Correct. Assuming that admin would look after all this induction, granting acts and stuff. And even on the other hand also, I'll have some notification and some feedback. Overall, we have decided what all to be included on our case. Right? This is like the background work that we do. Now let us go ahead into the system. We will see how we'll be able to define it on the PEGA platform. Basic concept here. Before directly coming on to the App Studio or Dev Studio, a bit of research work, a bit of domain knowledge. Correct? A bit of domain knowledge. That's before the project kicks off. You need to first analyze the main. Exactly. You need to understand the customer needs. That obvious thing. If the customer onto that domain, you could also give him suggestions on this. It would work. This is how general process is. We can guide them. And we can tell them that these are the best possible ways for us to handle this application. We cannot always expect our clients to be highly technical. They will give their business requirement. but to bridge that gap is what? Correct. They might not know what the stage is, steps and process about and going to. You know, Lemus? Probably they might not be able to understand. I had a question from, not from. This was a general curious. Actually, 2 years back when I went, because you have to complete in the PEGA Academy their course, isn't it, before giving them some, right? Right. But now it's not in this order, like how it's like, have you gone through the, do you access that? No, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. No, this one. Now it is showing as low code. One is the first chapter. What are the contents into modules? Like some modules are to use that they call the missions. The slow code app. The slow code app builder, because if you're coming to PEGA to learn, it's like it looks like, isn't it? That's the way you need to learn now, because I'm a bit confused like how to go through the chapters. Right? On when you open your business app, the first thing that you see is low code app builder. Once you click on it, it opens up its own contents. That's what you can do. You can use the integration with external application workspaces apps. Correct. Correct. That's the way the flow goes. Correct. And once you're done with the modules, all the challenges, then you can return back to your local app builder. For this you need a moment. I'm restarting the server. Do you have some question banks for the exams? You will share the end of the. But one problem with PEGA certifications is that they come up with new set of questions every exam. But at least it will make you think, isn't it? Because the thing is it will be helping you to think quicker in that time and finish off quickly if you do more and more. Because otherwise they have only some 5 or 10 questions and that one doesn't help you in any ways. Though you read, it doesn't help you to recall, isn't it? This might have more questions. It will help you recall better. And one thing I suggest is you have these quizzes at the end of each module. I mean work on those quizzes. Practically work directly. We get questions directly from those quizzes. You need to be very thorough with those questions and whatever the terms or the question bank I provide, and I think you should be able to get through it. But even then you might see some new questions from nowhere. Because, however, this is a new version they would have produced. We can expect around 8 to 10 new questions for each setup. I think now, because AI has kicked in, it's easy for them to make questions, isn't it? It's all automatically picks up, isn't it? Even I've seen like few people that they're actually working on a PEGA project and still they were not able to clear VCSA, CSSA and all. They're struggling. That actually, if you're working and clearing a certification is two different things. This one, most of the things which it just gives you a foundation to knowing PEGA. Like any product, it might give you a foundation, but working is entirely different. It depends on the organization which you work and how they handle stuff. You will not remember most of the stuff. It is one kind of thing you will be doing there. Right, exactly. The project doesn't need few things. I wouldn't work on those. You don't even touch it. Correct. That's true. And then technical terms you will not remember. You will be just working. You will be good at it, but you will not do actually the terms for it. Just a question where you're starting. If you have just a ERP project, also can you do it in PGA? Is it worth doing in PGA ERP projects? We need to definitely check for a few things, as in, like when you're talking about the actual onboarding or the resource planning. Like ERP and all connected systems, isn't it? Like a HR finance customer relationship, CRM. You can connect everything through PGA, isn't it? Yes, we could do it. In fact, we have a framework called PGA Sales Automation. That is where it all deals with the leads that you get or converting someone to a customer within your system. And how do you nurture those leads, converting them to opportunities and all, within which an extension of it could be the onboarding as well. And if you look at the frameworks of PGA, there are actual frameworks for onboarding. There is framework for KYC customer services of framework sales automation marketing. All these are like the framework. A finance framework, you have a framework inside that you can develop. They've already built a framework. And frameworks are different for domains again. Now, if I want to deal with customer service for a finance domain, I can do it. Customer service for, other life insurance. I can get the products, the frameworks for different domains. That's how you get your PGA. When you buy, you decide on what you want to do, and accordingly, you buy the frameworks and you build on it. And also, that depends upon how much of the framework you are trying to use. If you have a requirement which says about 60% of framework can be reused here, in whereas 40% I need to develop on my because it's not part of the framework. I need to implement it myself. In that case, I go forward and I can have this framework purchased for license. But if you think 30% of the framework is useful, rest all 70 is being customized. It doesn't make sense to. You just buy a PEGA enterprise. Exactly. Then you build your own framework. Exactly. We call it the basic vanilla version of PGA. It doesn't come with any frameworks. We can just build your own customization in that. Exactly. Then you can link you build one framework for finance, one framework for HR. Then you can integrate yourself, isn't it? You have customized it and then you integrate it. We can do that. Awesome. That was my application. I'm not part of the admin studio because the role is an admin. Let me go back to I'm going to switch to App Studio in order to start. The case designing it starts with a BA on the App Studio. Admin Studio doesn't have much view tool, isn't it? It doesn't have. Yes, here comes the App Studio. Let us go ahead. The application that we are in this is the IMPL. We already have like 2 case types defined in it. One is for recruitment. And there is the onboarding. Let me click on this. You remember the parts that are on the screen. You remember those 4 areas. 4 areas, the screen is divided into any guesses. The top portion is called the header area. Left side is the Explorer panel. The bottom one is the developer toolbar. Major part is. Let me select the case types from the Explorer panel. The side is Explorer and the bottom is Development. Sorry, what is it? Developer panel. By default, the system shows you a create stage. It says, like the format that you have to work. You have your stage here. This is your stage inside which there is a process, and this is called your step home. By default, it is provided. If we want to process stage and step, stage, process and step, I can start from this create stage. If not, I would want to create my own stage. Let me click on this first stage here for submission. Generally, stage names are nouns. Stage name. I have submission, interview, release, offer and onboarding. Let us see. Submission collect information. I will use this collect information step. And what is it that you are using for? To collect the candidate's personal info. I will name it something like get personal info. The next step, again a collect information step I would use, and this is for getting the educational info. And then the third step for experiences. I would use, and this is for getting the educational info. And then the third step for experiencing. Now if you see, the process is now editable. Your process is like a combination of all the steps. What are you doing with all these steps combined together? They are all about collecting candidate. Personal info. Education for experiences for all related to candidate. I would name it as collect. Now the second. I think the first stage is done. The second stage. And if you want to ask about a candidate's probably a written test or you want to schedule an interview, That is also a lot of collect information that you are doing. I'll name it as again, probably I can just name it a written test or something. Once the written test is through, what is it? The technical interview. Is it the information that I'm collecting? No, is the. Will that be information collection? Now, here I am deciding whether a candidate can be selected or not. Approve or reject. Right. Here I will use an approval. Once I use it, observe the stages. On the bottom, here you see there comes a stage called approval rejection. The system is saying that you tell. We need to design what happens if the candidate is rejected. Name it. And date. If you select it, you would proceed with the release of. If he is rejected, you would come back to the approval rejection stage. Generally, your process names have to be nouns plus verbs. They are more concerned with what is happening in that process. Plus verbs. You told only nouns was only for case stages, isn't it? Nouns plus verb is for. And make sure that whatever your steps process stages, their naming convention should be within like 2 to 3 words, not more than that. Even steps are nouns plus verbs. Right? Nouns plus verbs you can have. Whatever it is, stage, process or step whatever, you should be clearly able to identify what that is doing. If I am probably a newcomer to your project, once I look at the case, I should be able to understand what is happening with it. We should not give some vague names, some collective information which is very vague. What information you're collecting? What sort of information or from whom are you collecting? That has to be clearly added onto your case. Now on release offer, we need to send the offer to an email. Can I use any of these? Approval, reject, collect information or any others? Is it more? Multi-step? Automations? Then you have a send a step. The step called send email. And this is an automated step. Click on select. What I'm going to send. It's an offer letter that you're going to see. If it's automated, will it send automatically or it gives you time to? No, it sends automatically. As soon as the candidate selection is done, the system would go to the sending automated email. You mean you need to finish everything in the candidate selection process. You will do the offer. Exact. The submission stage interviews, all of it are complete. Only then the candidate will proceed with the release offer. And after release offer, I would also want to collect some feedback. After feedback, I might need the offer acceptance as well. Probably whether the user is accepting the offer or not. Then probably offer acceptance also and put it to a simpler collect information, or it can also be your approved reject. Either of these two can be used here because I'm going to make a decision. And then yes, onboarding for now, assuming I am only concerned under the offer acceptance. What my transaction ends with offer acceptance onboarding is a complete transaction. I don't want to do it. I'm going to delete the stage. These three dots you see on a stage. You can navigate your case here and there. You can delete it. You can move it across. You can do all sorts. Does this mean it's ended now? Correct. With offer acceptance, you need not put an end or something. There's no option to put an end. As soon as you finish that last stage, it will not continue. It will not go to a loop, isn't it? Nothing like a looping. Once this release offer is done, that's ended there. Release offer. What is it called? It is offer stage. Yes, release offer stage. I just clicked on save. My case type is saving. And I think we forgot to define the rejection stage. I was thinking what will happen. I was seeing that. I was thinking what I need to send in the email. Probably send rejection email and email. And again you're also on some feed. Send regretting. Let me. Now I'm going to run this. I mean like I see how it executes. I'm going to just run this. How did you run? Where did you click for running? You can save and run. On the right corner you have the 11 run. Where is it? Sorry, could you please show? I'll show that again. Let me screen. It's in the middle of something. Far, we have just added the case lifecycle. We have added in the stages, process and steps. But we did not find any way, as in like on personal info, what kind of data you want, whether it should be a text field or you want to read your choice. All that was not yet complete. We'll be doing that. In an end user perspective, this is how your case looks like. Suppose I started creating a transaction for recruitment. This is how it looks like. The system says we don't have any view defined because we haven't configured any view. That's as expected. Let me click on the case. This is on the first stage, the create stage. If you see the basic, system generated one. After this, my case should proceed on to the submission stage. Yes, here comes your submission stage. And this is your transaction, the recruitment. And this is your case ID. R2001 is the unique transaction ID generated for this case. And here you see something called, as is the case, status, the default status. We haven't added anything. That's like the default. And under the submission, you are in the Get Personal Info screen. If I proceed further, I'm on the Get Educational for screen, still under the submission stage only. And Get Experience Info, still the submission stage. After this submission stage is complete, I'm on the interview stage. Let's return test. If I still proceed assuming candidates through all these things, here comes your approval step. This is the default view that is presented for the approval step. I can either cancel or reject the account. Let us go with approval. And as soon as I launched the release offer, I came to feedback. But what about the email? The email step we configured, why is it not shown on the line? Any guesses? The email is basically an automated step. For sending an email, I don't need to show anything on the screen to the user. Can run in the backend. That wouldn't be displayed on the screen. Only for those forms when you're collecting information or when a user interaction is required. We need to configure the forms. Right. I cannot have a screen saying that I am sending email to and not required. But feedback for the user to enter. You need to see something on the screen. You cannot show blank screen and ask him to fill some feedback. But sometimes they'll not know. There is automated email step configured, isn't it? That is right. Your case life cycle. I mean, whatever the design you're doing on the case, that will tell me what are things are involved. That's the only for a newcomer to understand what's happening in your. When I still proceed further, there's nothing else. And oh, I think we also have the offer acceptance. After that, there's nothing else. Thank you. And you get this particular message. All yours on the transaction are coming. And let us also do a rejection one. Let us do it. Either you can go back to the case types. Select recruitment. You can click save and run. This is where I did. Just one more time. Save and run. Let me proceed further. And also when the case is created along with the case ID, observe the case status. The case status is something that provides you information on what is happening with the transaction. Just like when we tend to put in an order, when we place an order, you see the case. Status initial would be pending for payment or like payment done later. It would be like packaged. Then something like it would be shipped out for delivery to see the status. Because that provides you an information. It provides you a context of what is happening with your transaction. You see, currently, which means this case is newly created. I mean, it is in a new stage. Let me advance this. You're already through the written test on your interview stage in the interview. But still the case status is it giving us any information here? It is always new. It's not giving any information for me on any context of what is happening with the transaction. We should also define appropriate case status. Along with the case design that we did, we should have some appropriate case status. Let me just reject this now. Now you see, when I rejected the case, it said it has gone to the upper rejection stage and the case status is resolved. Reject. Now a candidate, when he looks at his transaction, he can understand. The case probably the candidate has been rejected. We can know some. Likewise, for rest of the stages, also we need to provide appropriate transmit case status. For this by default, we have got this as a behavior from the system. But for the rest of the others, we need to define the rejection. It is default once they are provided. Rest of the other step stages, we need to define appropriate case status. Once I click on any of these entities on the right side, you see there is some panel. We call it contextual properties. What is it called? Contextual properties panel. On each selection that I make, I will see different properties here on the panel. Suppose I have selected a step. You see the data or the properties related to a step are available. If I select each, they are the properties related to stage. Now case lifecycle, we have designed good. Now is it the same lifecycle that will be there throughout my application development? Because this is the initial one that we made. Going forward, with new enhancements coming, with new scenarios coming, definitely there will be changes on your life cycle. The design. We were slowly defining it and we will be customizing it according to the new requirements that come up. It's not like throughout the application development. This is how it is going to be. Now suppose I select a step here and you see I have an option called set case status. If you need, case status is to provide information on each individual step. You can have it here. Your default ones are available and click on the down arrow. You get to see a lot of services that are available, completed, new, open, pending, result. Does this do anything or it's just an information for us? It's just like providing information to the user. I mean, there's nothing like the. It will not do anything. You're just providing status information. Exactly right, because that's the first thing the user will observe. Otherwise, it will be confused. You're providing a context to the user. With your called case status. If you have scenarios like that, you wanted to tell the customer on each individual step level, you can define the status on the step level. Education was clean, that sort of. Status isn't required here, at least on this point. what I could do the whole of my stage. I can define a case status. That was new. Let me put it to open, which means a candidate is trying to open a new case for the, and then for interview, I let it be something related to pending. Maybe pending approval. And for release offer he has already got and he's already been approved. I will put it to something like, it was all completed maybe. Now I'll say when done this, we'll see what happens. Can we go ahead? Now you see the case status is open, but in theory I'm now that. The case is now being opened. And I proceed to answer to the next interview stage. And yes, it is pending approval. If I still proceed on further to approving it, I see a result coming. This gives the user an understanding of what is happening with this transaction. Because that's probably the primary indicator of the progress. Looking at that, I can understand how far I am from the resolution. One more simple thing when it comes to user context is the instructions. Sometimes instructions are required for the users to understand what they have to do on that particular screen. Even when we are trying to fill in some forms, you see some instructions. Please fill the dates in this format. Instructions are probably guiding the user on what he has to do on that particular screen. Let us add some instructions. And instructions are available only for collective information steps, because that's when a view is involved. That's when the entered information is entered. Now, if I select send offer email, it doesn't have any instructions. It has its own configurations that are required. Who it has to be sent to. What does that mean? What should be the body of the mail? Should it include attachments? It deals with its own properties. Get personal information. Let me add in some instructions. Something like this. And again, few instructions could be vague and few could be really specific to the context. And let me add in one more instruction for educational info. Something like use. Again, in education in months. Something like this could be your instruction, depending upon what kind of data you are handling and how you have to guide the user accordingly. You can have your instructions. Let me see. We'll see where the instructions are shown. Let me advance. Yes, here comes your instruction on the screen. But in actual fields are not yet configured. We have added only some instructions for. Is that part is done by CS? A bit by the base. I mean, we will be designing the basic. Yes, we will be doing it. We need to do the back end and all they will do it validation of those data and all. But the front end, like how it should look and where it should sit and all we do. Correct? I mean, if you are not possible. As a like for adding. If you want to add in a video on the screen directly. That may not be possible from the App Studio. I should go back to that. That possible. We should go back to the desk to do it. Like that. From the App Studio, but at least on a high level, we can design the scale. Both these things, the user, I mean the case statuses and the instruction and the user context to this. The first thing as part of user context is if you are a status. This is like your indicator towards the progress of the case. I think yes, that is what we discussed. And we have got few case statuses already available. We should be able to use most. One more thing about the context is about instructions. And we have discussed that instructions can only be a couple of select information screens or only when there is a user interaction. Not obviously not for. Know your automated steps. Far it was about case designing. And we have also learned a little about the user context. Isn't it? How do you define? How do you define case statuses? And the next that is important is about how do you define the timelines? Like for any transaction, it needs to be bound within certain timelines. Placing an example. I can wait for 3 to 5 business working days to get my order or to get my product. But can I wait for 6 months to receive my order? I mean, it's not good for the customer and for the organization also. Next time I wouldn't be placing an order with this organization anymore. Be it any transaction will take, it needs to have certain timelines. And obviously, upon the type of transaction we are dealing with. Suppose if I've lost my credit card, I call the customer service and I will complain or probably I will convey my issue that the credit card is lost. What do? They do is first block my credit card. After that, there is a process for reissuing of all of that. Blocking this credit card. Can it take 2 months? No, it should be immediate as within an hour or immediately on the point whenever I raise this complaint. I want this to be blocked. The action has to be in the. But if the time is very low, probably like within 30 minutes or less than that, I should have my card. That's best. On the other hand, if I am dealing with some claim, hospitalization claim that I wanted to settle, take that claim to be settled within 2 hours. Because it needs a lot of detail in, like you need to provide in the actual documents, they would do a lot of verification. One fraud goes back here, there and then. Finally, maybe a month or at least 15 days should. I can claim to be settled on the same day or within 1 hour is not possible. irrespective of whatever transaction you're dealing with. You need to have the appropriate time. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.